Today, I want to talk about something studied in linguistics called morphology. For those of you who may be like me, you won't even know what the heck linguistics is anyways. In a nutshell, linguistics is the study of the sounds of a language. It has nothing to do with the spelling or anything related to orthography, just the sounds. So please keep that in mind when listening to this. Before I get into the specifics of this, I need to go over what morphology is. You know how to break individual words down into smaller parts that have a particular meaning or function. How many parts are there in the word unbelievability? And how to create words by combining these smaller parts. That is, you can both produce and comprehend newly composed words that you haven't heard before. For example, ungiraffe-like. You also know which combinations are words and which ones aren't. Baker is a word, but bake is not. Nicely is a word, but bookly is not. Your knowledge of these and other facts about word formation comprises your knowledge of morphology. Morphology is a component of mental grammar that deals with types of words and how words are formed out of smaller, meaningful pieces and other words. Every speaker of English knows that wind is an English word, as are unwind, rewind, winding, windable, or even windy. However, even though woman is also an English word, none of the following are possible. Unwoman, rewoman, womaning, womanable, womany, and many more. Why is it that you can add re to wind and get another word, but adding re to women does not result in a word? Morphology, as a subfield of linguistics, studies the internal structures of words. It tries to describe which meaningful pieces of language can be combined to form words and what the consequences of such combinations are on the meaning or the grammatical function of the resulting word. For example, the addition of re to the word wind modifies the meaning of wind in a certain way, and in fact, it does so in the same way when added to unite, to make reunite, or play, to make replay. The grammar of the English language that is taught in school are guidelines to try to find ways our language works the way it does, but we actually learn these rules through speaking the language. This is what morphology studies. Keep in mind, this is just a brief part of the entire study of linguistics. We all have a lexicon of vocabulary that we know, either as a speaker or the listener. Let's think of the words dog and goldfish. Are these the same words? Obviously, we'd all say no. They sound different, but they also have different meanings and can't be interchanged. Just because they are both pets does not make them the same word. How about the word dogmatic? We realize as native speakers of English that there are two separate words inside that word, but they make one, and we don't associate the separate meanings of both words. Hope Dawson explains how we use these comparisons to create lexical categories. She uses the example of the word cat and catty. Could these be the same words since catty means to be spiteful, like a domesticated feline? Since cat is the root word for catty, this is a derivational morpheme. If something belongs to the lexical category of a verb, you may be able to add the suffix of able or able or ing to the end of the word to make it into another word. The word walk can turn into walking, or it can turn into walkable. These all have separate meanings and are separate words. But this doesn't work for every verb. That's why it's hard to make rules about grammar. You can add ness or nis or est, ist, to an adjective to change the meaning as well. On top of the derivational morphemes, there are inflectional morphemes. An inflectional morpheme adds to the meaning of the word it is added to without changing the meaning. So this would be similar to making something plural with an S or making it past tense with an ed. In English, this can't be implied. So even though you may have a word that insinuates plurality, you would still need the S. I have 4 bird is ungrammatical and still needs the S after birds, even though 4 implies plurality. Now let's look at plurality. Being native speakers of English, we naturally just assume we can add an S to a word to make it plural. This is somewhat true, but if we study the language behind it, it's quite amazing. Keep in mind that these don't always have to be added as a suffix, but can be stems or prefixes, but they are mostly suffixes. I'm going to make the following words plural: bird, chocolate, and brush. The plural of bird is birds, plural of chocolate is chocolates, and the plural of brush is brushes. In our heads, we just add an S, but listen to each ending carefully. Birds adds a Z noise to the end. Chocolates adds an S noise to the end. And brushes adds an is noise to the end. These all fall into the lexical category of plurality and sound different, but in our brain, it is computed as just adding an S to the end of the word. These roots and affixes create the morpheme, and a morpheme is the smallest linguistic unit with a meaning. The word dogmatic is broken down into dog and matic, and the morphemes can be studied after that. However, in this particular word, being a cute little animal and matic have nothing to do with believing something without evidence, which is the definition of dogmatic. Therefore, these are not 2 separate morphemes. The word is one. On a side note, the size of the orthography of the word will have nothing to do with how many morphemes there are in it. Some very long words have 1 morpheme, while some 3-letter words have more than 1. This is all just a very small piece of information about linguistics. There are a vast amount of morphemes as well as categories, but this is the most interesting to me. Our minds are an amazing tool that thinks and takes in so much information we don't even realize it. Thanks for tuning in.